Up next, we have Andreas Hedström Mace from Stockholm University Library, talking about Koha, open source, and modular systems architecture. Case from the Stockholm University Library.
All right, time to get going again after all those talks and the break. Don't fall asleep again. My name is Andreas Hedström Mace, as was mentioned. I'm a systems librarian at Stockholm University, and I'm going to talk mostly about Koha, a little bit what we do with system otherwise, and how we think strategically around that. First, a little bit about our library. Stockholm University is a fairly large academic library. We have around 70,000 students, only around 30,000, 34,000 full-time equivalents. So it's a lot of like part-time students and stuff like that. We have 6 libraries, or I should say today, if I were to pull this last year, it would have been 8. Next year, it will be 3 libraries. We're closing them quite rapidly. We have plenty of very small libraries, almost all of them on campus. We're closing them and getting this up into the large main library that we have. We have about 100 staff and 5,000 visitors a day, and about 1.5 million per year. This is our collection. About 1 million bib records, 1.4 items, and quite a lot of items checked out, but most of them are loaned out and are renewed again and again and again. And quite a few interlibrary loans and deliveries of various sorts. To give you some idea what I'm going to talk about, how we are set up at the library, so you can understand why we do things the way we do. I'm going to talk a little about how we organize. First, and this is basically the only organizations sketch that we have at the library today. We're in flux. But basically, we have 2 large processes. One is information supply, which is basically getting the stuff in. It's the classic library things. We have the electronic resources, we have the print material, all of that we serve to our students and researchers. But there's also the other one that's the other major process with it, which is publishing support. Might be publication data, might be research data, all of that kind of stuff. I will be focusing mainly on information supply, which is the first one, because the other one are pretty much tied into the university central IT. We don't own those systems in the way that we own the ones that are part of the information supply process. These are the systems that we use, or it's a very simplified sketch, obviously. In the middle, we have the print material, dark blue. We have Koha, of course, and the Libris, which is Swedish Union National Catalog, and Viola, which is a system we developed ourselves for book logistics of various sources. I'll be talking a little bit about that later. And the outer ring is for electronic material. We've separated electronic and print material, so there's no electronic material in Koha, for instance. We've made that as a kind of a strategic thing to keep these separate, and this also shows in the way we have interfaces that the users see. This is a screenshot of the library website where we have 2 tabs. The first one is articles, and that goes to, or the second one actually, the one in the back, that goes to EDS, which is a discovery layer. We don't have catalog data in there. It's only articles, ebooks, various electronic material. Books instead, you go to the Union Catalog, Libris, and find them there. And Libris also works as our OPAC. We don't go as OPAC, which is in mind. You see at the very bottom, or probably don't see it, but there's a blue button there. That's a request button that opens at a kind of a light box, which shows what we call Libris as the LOPAC, which is basically our OPAC, is that tiny little thing. And this is basically an idea of that the library shouldn't be focusing that much on building search, but rather focusing on document delivery. At least that's been the strategic direction that management wanted us to go. So that's what we are doing. So we only use existing external interfaces for searching. We don't do other things. Previously, we blended results using Android APIs and stuff like that. But the patrons never really got it. We didn't get it to work very well, so we decided to separate them. Another thing to keep in mind is our workflow with the Union Catalog. We catalog the Union Catalog fields. So basically, we add bibliographic records or holding records, either both or as Cliff talked about the Germans how they did. A lot of times we just add holding records to already available bibliographic records. These are then important to Koha where the holdings and the bibliographic data is all placed in the bib record. And then we add items, basically. All the item information is then sent to Libris in the web search, which is the OPAC that I just showed. So basically, we have Libris at the bottom, and the very top, and Koha sits right in the middle. As was mentioned before, Libris use linked data. It's a JSON-LB format, which is RDF, type of linked data, and that's converted into Mark 21 to be able to be used with Koha as it is today, and the same, it's converted to be shown at Libris web search. We are of course interested in letting Koha have the ability to have more metadata formats, so we don't have to do as much conversion back to Mark, so we won't be using it in the long run, so that would be really good. But to focus on Koha, which is what most of my talk is going to be about. And for Chris, thank you for the pronunciation guide. In Sweden, most people say Koha. Another version for you to remember. Well, we've been working with Koha for about 4 years. We've been in production for 2 years. Before that, we tried it out, and then we had a pretty long 1.5 year implementation process where we migrated from Voyager. We did that ourselves, but we had plenty of help, test migrations from Paul and these people, and also doing some other stuff for us. So that was very helpful. We are hosting it ourselves, like most major libraries. And this summer we upgraded to 1711, which worked very well. But as has been mentioned today already, we have kind of an atypical way of working with Koha since we only have it as a circulation system. This is actually what it looks like when staff log in. It's branded a little bit to help out with functionality that's actually used. What we do is the first two, basically, circulations and patrons. That's what we have Koha for. And then a little bit of cataloging, we add items and so forth, but that's not so much. And we do reports and we do other things, obviously, but that's only a select few staff who work with them. So basically, what we wanted and what we used Voyager for is, well, it's a circulation system. We don't use it for acquisitions and all that other stuff. So that was fascinating hearing about that earlier today. I hardly looked at that more. About reservations, because this is one of the big things we have to work with when we migrate to Koha. It's basically only one type of orders available. You can reserve things. Now lately it's article requests and other things, but when we went live with 1605, it was reservations, and then cut it for us. We have plenty of others. We have ILL. We have orders from the closed stacks. We have what we call here direct delivery, which is basically a sort of faculty delivery functions where staff at Stockholm University can order a book and get it delivered to their room. They can order everything, even from the open collections. So we have various order types that are handled quite differently staff-wise and then different workflows for them. So we built a little service layer that rests between our local systems and Libris, which is called Knut, which basically gets the information from Libris either from the web search that I showed you or the ILL service that Libris provides and that most Swedish libraries use. So we get it in, and then those calls in turn check with Viola or Koha to see the information that they either need to store or to get that information, like can this patron actually borrow this book? So we built a little service layer to help with that. Why did we do this? Yes, well, basically we wanted Koha to stay as close to the community version as possible and not do tons of new checks. and we already do a lot with Viola, so we try to not put any more strain on that system, and basically the last option would have been to put it in Libris, but we have very little control of that. It's a separate system that the National Library uses, so we opted to go with the service layer instead. We are generally not doing things in Koha. We, of course, have some small local adaptations and minor things that we do. But basically, if we want major developments, as we try to stay as close to the community version as possible, we sponsor this by the support companies that are available. We have used and are using plenty of different companies around in the community. What we have going right now, not completed, we have done other stuff that's already in master. Show that. We have a pretty big separate hooks queue development that we hope will get into master soon. Cal is working on. Basically, it's Koha today. When a book is checked in, it can actually separate queues depending on item type or branch. But it isn't shown, it's not stored in that way in the database. It still treats it like a big queue, so we can't extract that information and show it in other places like in Libris or My Pages, which is basically when students log into our website. We don't have Koha for that either. We have a separate set of things that we extract data from Koha and other systems to show the students, but we don't have Koha at the back of the. But to be able to show the queues as we want them to be presented, this needs to be separated in the database. Also, an OAI PMH harvester, which would allow you to harvest from various sources, and for us, obviously, the unit catalog, but there's plenty of other options like Omeka or DSpace or whatever you want to harvest from. That's been worked on too. Hopefully do more on it at the Hacklist. And also some beginning support for RDF, like adding a triple store to Koha, so you can get that RDF information and you use the OAI PMH harvested for that, so you could actually get actual RDF data that you can use to enrich your OPAC, for instance, kind of doing the same that people are doing in their project with them data, but getting the RDF in a different way and storing it in a different way. So yeah, linked open data would be great if we start getting Koha in that direction. We've been working a lot with the community. This switch map with the libraries. The ones in green are the ones that have Koha, and the ones in red are the upcoming ones. We've been working a lot with the international community, obviously, in trying to share as much as we can of what we do, but also spend a lot of time and effort in creating the Swedish user group, holding meetings, and all those other things that we do. So what have we learned so far working with Koha for about 2 years or 4 years? Count on it. Well, basically a lot of satisfied users. Even patrons I mentioned, they don't ever see Koha. It's a back-end system for us, but a lot of the functionality that's provided, like automatic renewals, people are generally very happy with that. So the basic functionality works very well. There are some stumbling blocks, like local patches. In a perfect world, we would have gone live without them, but we had like 20, 30 of them when we started. I think we're down to 2, but they kept us from upgrading, or it was very difficult upgrading, since we had a lot of local patches where some ended up in master and some disappeared in a way, got stuck in discussion, or are still waiting to get signed off, things like that. So we tried even more to not use local patches, at least not the ones that aren't ready in master to come in the next release. Automatic renewals, kind of a success when we implemented it, but also a challenge, like how do we handle the emails going out? Does this make sense to our users? There was some negative feedback that they couldn't renew manually, which we were a bit surprised by, but actually makes sense if someone is leaving for a vacation for a few weeks. They would like to know that the book they're having is going to be okay, and not that they're not going to get fines for that in the middle of if someone places a hold on it, which would be the case. I don't know. So we added that functionalities. Now we have both. They work very well. And also it takes a lot of patience and perseverance to get your sponsor development actually into the next release, or at least the master, like the stuff I showed before. And the importance of collaboration has been very clear. I'm going to talk a little bit about our other system, which is Viola, so you understand what that is and why we are using it. The background of it is that we had an ILL system that was being discontinued. So we did a complete rewrite, and it was based on well-established working workflows. But we also spent quite a lot of time before actually building anything, working with UX and getting those workflows trimmed even more. So we were thinking, what this thing that we're doing, are we doing it because we want it that way or because it was dictated that way by our old system? We worked in a similar way when we implemented Koha, which is a good way of doing things. This is for logistics. It's a term that we use. It's basically all those various types of orders that I mentioned earlier. Now, this is kind of an old slide. We would have Knut somewhere in the middle handling those calls, but you get the idea of it. These are collected, and then they are brought into Viola, which is both a web application and an app that we built for Android. That basically all the orders that come in are brought into a big list, and then staff select from this list as many as they want to be able to pick up. I know, oh, maybe I can pick up 50 books today, I'll pick 50 from the list. Or maybe I'll only have time for 10, and I'll only pick 10. These are then downloaded through phone. The system calculates the way the best order of walking through the collection, so you don't have to walk back and forth. And then you use your cell phone. We don't use anything else other than a portable printer. So you walk around with your cell phone, and when you find the book you're looking for, you scan it with the phone, the RFID tag, or if it doesn't have that, it doesn't work, you can take a photo of the barcode, and it reads that instead. And then prints a little slip that you place in the book, put it on your cart, and go find the next one. Since we don't have a lot of our closed stacks are in areas where there are no connections, because they are built in case of war, there are shelters. So it needs to store some information, and when you come back to your computer, it reports everything and sends the mail out, or tells Koha, or actually it tests it, and then tells Koha, you need to send an email out, this book is not available. So it's a pretty nifty system, if I may say so myself. What are our reflections and experiences building the system? Well, one workflow for several types of orders is very good, and also having it in a digital row, keeping it online all the way. Commonly, when you work with classic ILSs and closed stacks pickups, it's usually a dedicated printer somewhere that prints a slip, and then you go find the book, and then you have to go back to the system and do stuff. We keep it digital all the way, and that makes it a lot faster and less time consuming for our staff. Basically, 5 people could do what 10 people did before. Also, it has increased the technical skill of the workforce, since they've been not forced, but encouraged to work with SQL, and also learning regular expressions and stuff like that, and so they can handle the collections and the walking order that's decided by a big set of regular expressions. So they're working with that. So our developers usually don't need to take care of that. The libraries, if they change something in the collection, place it in another room. And it's very easy to follow where a book is and where the process is before you have no idea. Something was sent to that printer and that slip is gone. Who has taken it? Where is the book? We don't know. Now we know exactly where it is in the order chain. Okay, this person has collected it. It has been reported. It's going to be sent in 15 minutes. So you know exactly where it is, and it's easy to keep track of. Moving along, this is, I don't know if you can see any of this, because it's kind of a messy slide, but this is how we organize our information supply systems, basically. How we work with them in various working groups. We have project plan, coordination in the middle, and then we have working groups for the various, like Discovery or Koha or Riola, where there's working groups, and then there's subgroups from that. Like for Koha, we have circulation and catalog, and then there's a strange fish that says Gös, which is the name of a Swedish fish. I don't know the name of it in English, but it's also a name of the huge weeding project we have going, gobbling up something that we do the same in Swedish as the Germans do, make acronyms. So we weeded about 100,000 items this year to be able to include more libraries at the big library. How do we work with systems development from this sketch? Well, basically management makes the overall strategic decisions. And from that, all those little bubbles you saw list their needs, what do they want, or bugs that they found or whatever. And then each semester we have planning, first with staff and then with developers, and they all list needs and prioritize them. And that in turn is listed and prioritized by our project planners or the coordinators. And so we know what we need to do for the semester, and then that's put into sprints for developers working on field or Knut, whatever we need done. Or we know that, okay, we have this, we need fixed in Koha. If it's small, we can do it ourselves. If it's bigger, we'll contract someone to do it instead. So that's basically how we work. And for all of this, I mentioned it before, but I really want to stress the importance of UX. That everything starts with actually looking at the processes you have before going forward and adapting the workflows first, maybe, and then maybe look for or develop a system that suits your needs after that. It's pretty common, and I hear it a lot, that people find the system that they like and then try to fit their workflows according to that system. We believe it should be the other way around. Look at your workflows and then find a system that fits that need. We also have an open source strategy as much as we can. We like to use open source. We don't always do, but when it's possible, we do. And when we do, we like to work with community versions, smaller local changes we can do, but as mentioned, the big stuff, either not at all outside of, for instance, Koha, or working with the community to get it done. And it's the same with Coral or any other system that we are working with currently. Well, why then would you use a modular approach? Well, it's, as I mentioned, it helps you focus on your workflows and seeing what needs to be done with them rather than looking at a system and try to use all the functionality that's in there. And the benefits of this is that, well, we have no big monolithic systems. There's another big trend right now that libraries, at least academic libraries, are using more and more big monolithic system that basically handles everything. We don't think that's the way to go because we are different and we do things a little bit differently. We do stuff differently from the Germans. The Germans do stuff differently from the Americans, a little bit. So monolithic systems built for everyone probably won't fit all your workflows. Maybe some of them, but not all of them. So a more modular approach would help you in actually finding or building software that helps you with your workflows. You have less lock-in and more flexibility and control, especially if you have open source. You definitely have increased control since you always have the source code there and you can work with it as you want. The challenges are that you are working with multiple systems and multiple user interfaces, most likely for staff, but in our case also for patrons. There's a lot of user interfaces and that might be confusing. On the other hand, there are a lot of user interfaces out there in the world, so maybe not the library ones are the most difficult. And also, maybe more importantly, the interoperability between systems. There need to be ways to connect these systems in an easy way, which hasn't always been the case, but it's becoming better. And workflows. Again, I would say focus on the workflows, but sometimes you have workflows that goes between different systems. You might need to go back and forth. Like we might use Libris to catalog something, then we need to go to Koha and do something with the item. And then for some reason, we notice an error, we have to go back to Libris and do something with it. back and forth is not the best way of doing it, but you can try to not do that. The most important thing is to not do the same stuff twice. That is for UX. So, is this the answer? See if you get any boost now. The answer is possibly. When it first came out, we were really, really interested. Oh, a framework that helps us integrate the various systems that we have. That sounds excellent. Kind of what we wanted to do in a light version with our service layer. But more and more as it has progressed, they are competing with other big monolithic systems, and they want a user interface that works for all of their data, and that's not really what we want to do. We don't want to push all our data into one form, one user interface, which you cannot customize. That doesn't suit us really well. So it might be something that we might need and use, but we don't know. We're a bit skeptical, or at least I am. Interested, but we'll see. That was it for my presentation. And now, questions. Then I will just put up my last slide. Oh, there's a question there. Go back. There are some other libraries who are not using every part. I don't have examples right in my head, but there are some examples of probably not just using circulation like we do, but maybe I don't think everyone uses the acquisitions model or the serials model, for instance. So it's a bit. Koha in itself is pretty. You can take and use what you need, which we think is nice, obviously.
Well, that's actually everywhere.
Yeah. Okay. There's a voting going on, as you probably know. I want to end with saying, vote Stockholm.